I'm going to quickly talk about giving children more and a bit of the reasons why I set up our tuition hub and how it works the way that it works, and why I've organised things in the way and structured the things in the way that they're structured. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background in terms of normal standardised schooling, a normal classroom would work where you have one teacher at the front of the classroom and you might have a TA as well. So that would work out as a ratio of 1 to 15, one teacher or one adult to every 15 children. Now, taking into consideration, you may have children with learning difficulties in that classroom. You may have children that speak very or not much English in the classroom or new to the country. You're going to have children from a wide range of diverse backgrounds. You're going to have children with behavioural difficulties in the classroom. You're going to have lots and lots of things going on in that one classroom, and you're going to have a ratio of 1 to 15. Now, what sets us apart from the normal standardised classroom is the thing that, number one, we have a much smaller ratio. So our ratio is 1 to 5. So we've got one tutor or one adult to every 5 children. And we are different. So I say we have parents and adults that come into our tuition hub, and some fall in love with what we do, and I literally mean they love what we do, and some don't. And I'm very open and honest. I will tell you from the start, we are very different from a normal standardized tuition hub. And here's what sets us apart from the others and makes us so much different. We are much more creative. So that we don't expect our children to sit down, shut up and get on with the learning. We don't. What we want to do, we want our children to ask questions. We want our children to take their time to understand the material. We make sure that they go over certain things. If they don't get it the first time, that's okay. We don't pressurize children to get it, to understand it, and then to move on. If they need to spend a little bit more time on something, cool, that's not a problem. I mean, it actually, to us, it means that there's actual real learning there, and that's what we are we are really, really enthusiastic about ensuring that children walk out with more knowledge than they came in with. Because if they don't, that means that there's no learning going on. We're actually a little bit more creative as well, whereby we start our day with a nice creative activity. Our children come running, bounding in. They're like, "Yeah, what have we got? What are we starting with today?" They're enthusiastic. They're keen. They're passionate. They talk to each other. When it's time to eat, we sit around one massive table. We get all our snacks out and we have a conversation about anything. Our children, these little TikTok trend things, and they ask myself and tutors to dance and try it. I'm like, I'm not the greatest dancer. But they're keen and they're passionate, and they love. It's kind of like a mini family that we've set up and that we've got going on. But the main thing about it is they want to be there. If you can take, most of us, those that are listening now, we went through education, right? We went through a normal standardized education. Some of us may have gone to private school, but generally speaking, most of us went through a normal standardized education. And, I went through it. I did all right. But the thing is, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there at all. In fact, I found it an absolute bore. I was bored to the backbone. I was bored of sitting down for long periods of time. I was bored with the teacher or the same teacher day in, day out, 5 days a week. I was bored of the same set activities. I was bored of not being able to use the hands-on, the kinesthetic learning tools because our class was so big. I was bored of having to sit down at one desk and not really move around because the classroom had so many children in. And this is what happens with most of our children day in, day out. The thing is, a child will not come up to us and say, "Do you know what, Mom, I'm bored of schooling. Do you know what, Mom, I don't really want to be there." Our children will just go along with it because they believe that, we might have work to do, or we might have something to go out and do other than looking after them, essentially. The thing is, school is not childcare. And some parents, some adults treat school as childcare. And it's not childcare. Children are there to learn. Children are there to improve upon how they woke up this morning, to take in more knowledge, to understand more than they did this morning. And if they're not doing that, then something is wrong. They are also there to enjoy the experience. They're there to become keen and passionate learners that not just only understand, but actually enjoy taking on new information and can retain it as well. And if a child is not taught in this way, is not taught by passionate teachers, not taught by someone who actually truly cares about them as individuals and isn't just stuffing them into one classroom and saying, right, this is the curriculum for today. No, we work together to make sure that, number one, our tutors are keen and passionate. I love working with children. So many times I've been into schools and you can tell when a teacher wants to be there. You can tell you can tell teachers that don't like working with children. You can tell, and it's such a shame, because you know that your child or a child or some set of children are stuck with this adult, with this teacher who doesn't even want to be there, who's just there for the pay packet. And so it's so important for us to, as parents, because I'm a parent, I've got 3 myself, but as a parent, we need to sometimes stop and say, is this thing actually supporting my child's development in the way that I expect it to? Is this thing actually useful and beneficial for my child? Do I need to look at other avenues? Is this going to be supportive for their mental capacity as well? Is this good for their emotional well-being? And that's what we need to ask these questions. I mean, I know that we've got work and we're busy and we may have other children, we've got a household to run and all these things that we have to do on top of just looking after our children. But sometimes we need to stop and say, hey, is the education that my child's getting conducive to where my child expects to go? Are they enjoying their learning journey? Is it helpful for them in the long run? Are they actually being taught to think methodically? Are they being helped in emotional ways as well? Is their well-being being developed? Or is it just simply to get the grades? Is it just simply, because you've got to realise, school is a business. Schools are businesses. If they don't have children on those seats, bums in the seats, then there's no money coming in. And so this is why we have large class sizes, a ratio of 30. Sometimes, I mean, when I was teaching, it was 30 to 1. It was 30 students to 1. I was in a classroom by myself, 30 children. And that was normal. We had one TA, I think as far as my memory serves me, I think she worked between four classrooms. So the ratio was crazy, and that was normal. And then you've got to think, you're going to have so many different things going on in one classroom, and then you're going to ask the teacher to, hey, raise their grades. Hey, make sure that child is learning. Hey, make sure that child is happy. Hey, make sure. There's 30 of them. 30. Imagine 30 of your own child. I can't imagine 30 of my own. But this is the thing. Sometimes we have to sit down and think, is this conducive to my child? Does my child need to learn a little bit more hands-on? Does my child need to, would it be beneficial for my child to get some extra support? How do I need to support my child? Look at what they're getting at the moment, and sometimes reaching out and asking for support or asking for extra help, or thinking, you know what, yes, my child's doing okay, but this is where I want them to go. This is the avenue, or I just want them to enjoy education a little bit more. And think about your child and where you want them to go and how you want them to aspire, or do you know what? How you want them to think of education. Is the way that they relate to education, is the way that they relate to education now, is that serving them? Is it? Do you know what? In fact, simple question. Is their education serving them? And I guess that's the question that we need to ask ourselves as parents consistently throughout life. Not just, oh, do you know what, they're in primary school now, so they're all good. Or do you know what, they've moved on to secondary school, they're all good. Is the education that they're receiving, is it truly serving them? If the answer is yes, cool. If not, sometimes we need to say, do you know what, if not, maybe I need to ask for a specialist. Maybe I need to ask for help. Maybe I need to look for something else. Maybe I need to support them in another way. And as I said, I know that we get busy. We're parents, a parent of 3. I know we get busy, but sometimes this is you need to take time and sort this out as well. It's Cordelia. From Spark Tuition, I just wanted to jump on and just talk about serving children, and I've gone on for a little bit longer as usual. This is because that's what I'm passionate about. I can't help myself. But yeah, just it's just simply taking a step back, deciding whether or not the education that our children is getting is serving them. And I think on the next one, I'm going to jump on and I will talk about our homeschooling journey and why I decided to homeschool my 12-year-old son. And the difference is because I've got one that sounds rude. I've got a child that has continued her education in school and she is cool. And I've got one that's homeschooled at the moment, and then I've got my 2-year-old. So lots of different stuff going on, but I have to find ways to serve my children, because I think I've said this in a previous post as well. But if we don't find ways to serve our children now, then we are going to have to spend more time trying to sort them out as opposed to serving them in the future. So I am all for putting everything into my children now while they're young, and watching them flourish and watching them become amazing adults in the future. So yes, I'm Cordelia Cooper, Spark Education. Thanks for listening. Bye.